how many of you have already failed your New Year's resolutions? Or how many people do you know who have already given up? I'd say more than, holy shit. What do you think the real number is? It's been a week. It's got to be more than half. It's got to be more than like 65% guaranteed. And do I think that's an issue of people's internal discipline or motivation or whatever? Maybe not. I just think the idea of these resolutions are kind of goofy. Ugh. Maybe it's good. I mean, I'm sure there are freaks out there who started off their journey in it. I mean, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be working out. But the New Year's resolution idea got somebody going. If it didn't, then people wouldn't even talk about it. That stuff gets me riled up. Makes me get a little upset with myself when I haven't been doing my laundry or if I haven't been working on my homework. Just basic low-level shit like that. And then, getting good at that, it'll just let you get better at doing shit. And I'd say the more shit you're able to do on a consistent basis, the more results you'll be able to get in whatever field those things are in. Blah, 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 improvement, whatever, grinding, gains, progression, any other positive buzzword under the sun. That's what we're aiming for. That's what we're freaking aiming for. And then there's really only 3 movements that I like for rear delts. I'd say laying face pulls, which we'll get into later, reverse pec deck, classic, and then bent over lateral raises. So if I had to tell you the big 3, I really think that's it. You could probably find a couple of other niche movements, but that's all I end up doing. And every time I do rear delts, it's not like I go through those 3 every time. Sometimes if I'm doing laying face pulls and it just feels extra good, I'll just spam those for the whole lift. The whole 5 or 6 sets or how many I do. I gotta say this, and take this to heart if you're somebody who's doing a real light shoulder day and your shoulders aren't ahead of the game on your build. Do not be afraid to get repetitive. Honestly, the only reason I'm doing this is because I want to change it up a little bit. But I wouldn't mind sitting there for fucking 10 sets of side laterals if that's what I got to do to stimulate growth. So, don't treat that as something that's going to make the workout seem more boring. Just treat it as like, oh, sweet, I don't have to think about anything but getting my sets done. You're never really working these muscle groups. So if you try to go a little bit too heavy, it might kind of make your wrist a little uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to start with a 10. Don't be afraid to start with a 5. As long as you can get pumped up and they're burning, you're doing something right. But 5 more of these-ish, and then I'm going to do some shit working this bottom part of the forearm. Okay, now back of the forearms are pumped up. Even just straightening my fingers and trying to pull them back. I don't want to say on fire, but pretty close. So now I'm going to flip the script, and instead of doing stuff that works my forearms in this manner, I'll do some stuff that hits them this way. Rear delts, they're certainly a strong contender for the most neglected muscle groups. Calves is up there too. Hamstrings is up there. Rear delts. That's pretty much it. I'd say calves, hamstrings, and rear delts. Maybe take a look at your training right now. Reflect on what you've been skipping. So kind of like I was hinting at earlier in the car, just because your rear delts are kind of a small muscle and you don't want to hurt yourself by going too heavy, doesn't mean that you shouldn't go as heavy as you can. When I say as heavy as you can, I mean within the constraints of being able to do a good set. Obviously, if I tried to go as heavy as I could with dumbbell curls, then I would just try to do as much weight as I could for 1 rep. But in the constraint of trying to go as heavy as I can for 8 reps, for 9 reps, then I think that's about the weights that you should be using. So in terms of overall load on the rear delts, I really don't know a movement that can beat this. I can get a good squeeze, and I can lift a pretty good amount of weight with like reverse pec deck or bent over lateral raises. But I think if I had to pick one movement for rear delts in perpetuity, I think this would be it. Right. So as I'm doing these, I'm really trying to focus on keeping my shoulders in the same position. Because when your shoulder moves back and forth like this, that's when you're getting a lot of trap activation. I'm almost trying to imagine like just sending enough signals to my fingers to hold onto the weight, and I'm just doing a movement like this. Get it? I'm not sure that's going to cut it for you, you know? I'm not saying that you have to hit it with as much weight as you physically can. I'm not going to load my rear delts the same way I would chest or triceps. But I do want to, push the weight at least to a point where I'm actually doing some legit damage. So I'm not just going to be doing light face pulls, 10 reps, maybe get a little bit of a burn. I'm really going to try to load them up as much as I can. Today was supposed to be a leg day for me, but my right quad has been kind of a little iffy. Not in the sense that I think I'm going to like do a set and something's really going to get ripped. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But just to the point where it's a little bit of a twinge, which I don't want to just keep pushing through, making worse and worse and worse until I do have some kind of, legit issue. So it feels pretty good today. Like, I can kind of tell just by doing like a body weight sissy squat or just flexing my quad, like, okay, it feels nice and good. But I want to give it one more day. So instead of legs today, hamstrings and quads, I'm going to push it back until tomorrow. Probably rip both biceps off, have a pretty bad time. But in the constraint of trying to go as heavy as I can for 8 reps, for 9 reps, then I think that's about the weights that you should be using. When people talk about reps, or they write out a workout and it says like 3 sets of dumbbell curls for 12 reps, I think people kind of forget the fact that you still have to make those sets really hard. Like, for me to do a set of dumbbell curls with the 30s for 10 reps and have like another 20 reps in the tank versus a set with the 60s for 10 reps and have that pretty much be failure. I mean, for me, it seems pretty obvious. Which set do you think is better? Basic gist, go as heavy as you can for reps. Just because they're already kind of big, so when they're pumped up, they're even fucking gnarlier. But even if they're a little ahead of the game, man, it feels fucking cool to have a shoulder pump. It's kind of its own thing. It's like chest pump's cool just because well, look at me trying to tell you that pumps feel cool. Come on. I think we already know this. This is common knowledge. But oh my goodness. I mean, that's just fucking cool. Yeah, still got a couple lines floating around, some striations. So the best way that I know how to do that is light dumbbell, like this is just a 20. Pop a squat on a bench or any kind of seat hanging off your quad like this, and then just moderately controlled, just like that. I'll probably do 20 reps or so. Maybe not until complete failure, but just to the point where it's really burning. Just sit here for 10, 20 minutes, allocate some time for it. And once you've gotten a really good forearm pump, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I'd say kind of niche muscle groups like this, I'd say this is the real accessory work of bodybuilding. Really the only chore of doing them is to do them. But if you feel like your forearms are kind of lacking, or you kind of want to at least see what a forearm pump is like I was saying about shoulders, you can't really be afraid to get bored. I'm just going to sit here for the next 10 minutes, do a set, play on my phone a little bit, do another one, back and forth until I'm done. Are you only doing like 2 sets of rear delts a week? It's not going to cut it. Right? Every muscle group deserves an equal amount of attention. That's how I feel about that. Now, I say that, and then I haven't done calves for like 3 days, so I guess maybe I'm an asshole too. But whatever. So, once shoulders is done, which I haven't even talked about side delts, but it's just going to be like 5 or 6 sets of lateral raises. either with the dumbbells or with the machine. It's a pretty simple muscle group to hit as well. I'll get into that in a little more depth as we're actually doing it. And once shoulders are done, probably do a shoulder pump check just in between moving on to forearms. But then we can just get into forearms. Like you can stand up with a barbell behind your back and sort of do, you know, barbell forearm curls like that. Or you can grab a straight bar on the cable and do forearm curls like this. I like that one a lot. But probably the one that I'd attribute most of my forearm growth to, I haven't been hitting them recently just because they're big enough. But when I used to hit them every arm day, this is probably the main movement I would do. Sit on a bench, long ways, grab something heavy. I mean, as heavy as you can do comfortably. And by comfortably, blah, 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 blah. By comfortably, I mean, you know, not feeling like you're at risk of tearing something. You know, I feel like most of the best doers that I ever see, and that when I hear them talk about stuff, I really listen. It kind of perks up my mind, are people who have a firm and relatively objective grasp on reality. And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm talking about people who aren't crazy. I mean, people who can understand, you know, the reasoning and the logic between, or that kind of causes them to do certain things and whatever else. You know, it's like, I might not be really explaining this well enough, but it's somebody who can really look at themselves and think, okay, what do I need to change? What have I been doing that's holding me back? What have I been doing that I know I really shouldn't be doing? When it comes to lateral raises, how heavy should you go? Or, I mean, like, what's your max for a good set? I'd say you should probably not go so heavy that you really have to swing every rep. I'd say as heavy as you could go for legit reps, no swinging. But honestly, I don't know if weight is necessarily the number one factor you should be looking at with your shoulder training, at least with side laterals, because I'd be totally satisfied doing just the 30s for, like, you know, sets of, I don't know, well, 30 and just burn out getting a crazy pump. And it's most notable when you do like a double bicep shot. You know, you get both arms up here like this, because if you sort of look at your build, I guess if you're somebody who's into art, you kind of get what I'm saying. Like if you were to sketch somebody's build out like that, you'd sketch their shoulders sort of like a, you know, a round ball. Same thing with their arms. I want that, you know, ball of my arm in here, its diameter, its size. So arms need to catch up. But it has been a little while since I've done shoulders, so I just want to throw them in. Now I say shoulders, but really I mean side and rear delts. So now I just get to go home, pet the cat, play with the dog, probably watch a movie or something. I'm teetering on going back to episode 1 of One Piece, but that's unrelated to lifting. So I will see you next time for leg. But I feel like that simplicity also sort of, it kind of causes people to maybe treat side delts as though it's a movement which doesn't require a lot of volume. You know, I think sometimes people judge the volume of a workout based on doing like maybe 2 or 3 sets per exercise and then moving on. So if you're kind of following that logic, then if you're just doing 1 exercise for side delts, oh, I guess I only need to do like 3 sets and then I'm done. It has been a little while since I've done shoulders, so I just want to throw them in. Now I say shoulders, but really I mean side and rear delts. Front delts, I do not need any more work, just because the, you know, up here, this upper part, right, front delts, they're big enough. But, you know, thickening up the sides and the rear delts, I don't think that's going to add too much to my, let's just call it imbalance, you know, because you could have side delts that are too big, I guess I could see that. But I'd say for the general population, nobody, well, I mean, I've never seen it where I looked at someone and said, holy shit, dude, you know you have to hit your whole body too, not just your rear delts. kind of a chillish lift. Kind of a pretty chill lift. But, you know, fitting the fact that I kind of want to take an extra day before I move on to hit legs, I think this will be a pretty good session. Pretty good freaking session. So if you're curious about the lack of shoulder training, what's going on? Construction guys spotting. But so if you're curious about the lack of shoulder training, just because I got fucking big shoulders, man. Do a couple of sets on the side lateral machine, and then we're gonna check the pump. I'm definitely more than halfway there, side delt wise. One thing that I like, but also concerns me, is the fact that side delts are a very simple muscle group to hit, right? And if you're not seeing that progress, then you got to take a step back, reassess what you're doing, maybe find some aspects of your training which are maybe not totally up to par, change them up, fix them, and then see what happens next. Then I'm going to go home, probably stop at Cane's on the way, make sure I'm nice and well fed and well rested, and then tomorrow's leg day, I plan on going. Yeah, like I was saying, this is not a lift that I really would want to have like in my weekly split, but on rare occasion, it happens to come up. So I'd say probably every so often, if there's ever, for whatever reason, a situation where I want to delay whatever the lift is, like today was going to be legs, but I ended up delaying it until tomorrow.